During this time of online church, we here at First Unitarian have been continuing to find creative ways to gather in community, to worship together, and to nourish our spirits when we are apart. Last month, Reverend Terry shared with us how to make different kinds of home altars, physical spaces in our homes to set aside as sacred, with objects that hold important meaning to us. This morning, we will be participating together in a spiritual practice that we can do in our altar spaces or in any space by reflecting on the written or spoken word. In Unitarian Universalism, we already have a practice of slowing down and meditating on a powerful or spiritual passage. We start all of our gatherings, be it worship or small groups, with a simple chalice lighting. As a denomination, we are not limited to just one sacred text, but instead recognize that there are sacred words of wisdom found in many places, be it the Bible, our favorite poet, or maybe something that we found on NPR. Our chalice lightings and readings encourage us to listen to a text with a new lens, one which invokes the spirit of church. Many of us have had our own sacred texts which have special meaning to us, or that we would refer to as sacred for ourselves. Poems, books, and songs are all ways we can engage with the written word by reading it or listening to it and feeling a deep connection. Today, our spiritual practice will focus on engaging with such a text, whether it is a familiar one or something new, in a deep, meditative way. This brings that spirit of church into our homes and hearts. And this practice is called Lectio Divina. Lectio Divina, literally meaning divine reading, is a practice which dates back as early as the 3rd century as a way to engage more deeply with the biblical passages through repetitive reading and silent reflection. Now, this meditative practice is used by Christians and non-Christians alike to gain deeper insight into oneself through a new or beloved text. The process of Lectio Divina is 4 steps: Lectio, Meditatio, Oratio, and Contemplatio, or read, reflect, respond, and rest. For the first step, to read, you simply read the text and just let the words speak to you. This is not an academic reading of the text, not one where you need to read closely for the meaning. Instead, this is where you just listen and observe which phrase, about 3 to 4 words long, stands out to you the most. The second step, to reflect, is when we read the passage a second time, and then you specifically focus on that phrase that spoke to you in the first reading. After reading that passage a second time, you sit with your thoughts for a little while. You ask yourself, what is this passage trying to say to me? And you feel whatever emotions arise for you. This is not like meditations where where thoughts pass us by. And then the third step, to respond, is after the one final reading of the passage. You pray or journal your reflections or intentions about what spoke to you during this Lectio Divina process. And lastly, we rest. Before returning to your day, you rest and are grateful for what you have learned about yourself and about the passage. Rejoice in the sacred within you and your inner peace. In present day, Lectio Divina is used as a meditative practice for people of all different beliefs with all different kinds of texts. For example, the podcast Harry Potter and the Sacred Text often uses Lectio Divina to reflect closely on one single sentence of a Harry Potter book. And this allows the host to experience both personal insight and a deeper insight to the characters and the story itself. UU Wellspring, an organization which leads small group spiritual practices, also has guides for interested UUs on how to engage with Lectio Divina for any text. This close and meditative examination of text is something that I have done in my own spiritual practices. When I also meditate, Lectio Divina provides a different experience and self-reflection than meditation does. Because instead of trying to focus on clearing my mind and the silence, I instead am focusing on the words and accepting with gratitude whatever thoughts and feelings those words bring up for me. With each new reading, I grow more and more familiar with the words, allowing myself to go deeper into what they mean for me and my present context specifically. Oftentimes, what starts off as a simple reading turns into an experience which allows me to feel more deeply connected and grounded within myself. But you don't have to take my word for it. Today, we will be engaging now with the 4 steps of Lectio Divina, adapted from the work of Unitarian Universalist Reverend Tina Simpson. We will be engaging with the text that we use for our chalice reading today, the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, found in the back of our gray UU hymnal. With each step, I will describe what we will be doing with each reading, with some time for silent meditation and reflection. If you are someone who likes to journal and maybe has some paper nearby, you are welcome to process your thoughts that way. There will also be times throughout this practice where you can share your thoughts, feelings, reflections in the public chat box. Now, before we start, I invite you to adjust your body to be in alignment in whatever way is comfortable for you. And I invite you to take a deep centering breath in and out. I'll now read our passage, and as I read this passage, I invite you to listen for what phrase is speaking to you. About 3 to 4 words, if you recall. And after I finish reading, there will be a short period of time for silent reflection. Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become wholly ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being, common to us all and to all living things. So for our second reading of this text, I invite you to listen to the reading, specifically focusing on the passage that spoke to you, the part of our passage that spoke to you the most. What are those words trying to say to you? Or what is this whole reading trying to say to you? Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become wholly ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being, common to us and to all living things. So for our third and final reading of the text, we will be preparing to respond. So I invite you to listen to the words one last time before writing down a prayer or journaling your thoughts and feelings in a reflection. Now you can write these reflections down on paper, or you can write them down in the public chat to share with others in the community. That is totally up to you. And there will be time for silent reflecting or writing after I finish this reading. Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become holy ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being, common to us and to all living things. Thank you for participating in that with me. As we transition out of this space through song and music, we will enter our last stage of Lectio Divina. Rest in the knowledge of all that you have learned about your inner self. Let us all rejoice that we were able to take this time in this sacred online space to grow together through the practice of spiritual reading together as a community. In these stressful and uncertain times, it is more important than ever to engage in practices which can heal our souls, engage our minds and our spirits in new ways. I hope that you will be able to use this practice on your own with the texts that you consider sacred or holy, making church happen for you, not just here on Sundays, but whenever you need it in your own home and heart.